Okay, Am. Action skill. Throw. Please hit. Thank you. Whee! Alright, please don't whiff my shot. 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 Yeah, I didn't whiff it. What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another Borderlands 4 build video, and today we've got an updated version of our 1 billion damage Doomfist Amon dot build. Wow, that was a lot of words put into one sentence. Anyways, I figured I'd come in, update this build a little bit because you know we got BLOOMREAPER coming, and that boy gonna be chunky. He's also going to hit like a truck. I mean, we're getting a new UVH level with him. So we got to update the survivability a little bit because before this thing was kind of a glass cannon. Not even kind of. This thing was an absolute glass canyon. So we're going to update it a little bit. We got some more survivability. We got just about the same amount of damage. I mean, I still tested. I hit 1 billion on flesh. So if BLOOMREAPER has flesh, that boy is going bye-bye. Anyways, let's get right into the build. So as always, we're going to start in the skill tree. A little bit different here. It's got a lot of the same formatting to it. We just changed some things around to get a little bit more survivability through overshield, as well as we put a single point into the thrill here for that missing health regeneration, because this is one of Amon's best survivability skills. Super simple to get to. It's the first tree here, first row, first tree, whatever it is. You just put a point into there for the blue tree. In the red tree, we have 28 points this time. So we took a couple points out of the green tree, put one into the blue, put another 2 into the red. This time, starting at the top, we're going what burns within once again. But we're also going to go with discombobulate to get ourselves more consistency with this build as well. So before we had titanium knuckles, we're changing that out for discombobulate for that melee hit crit chance, because we want to get that critical hit when we utilize Raging Inferno. And with this build, we have approximately 75% critical hit chance, unless I'm absolutely blasted. Pretty sure we got 75%, with 25% coming here. When you get 3 stacks applying shock, that's another 15%. And then we go into our specializations here with a honed mind. We get another 5% there. And then we also have our 30% from Raging Inferno. Now that should add up to 75%. We got 30% here. We got 5% in our specializations, 35%. Then we have 25% here. 35 plus 25 is 55%. Quick math. And then we got an extra 15% here. Or 75. Somewhere I did the math wrong, but it's 75, I think. Trust me. Or don't trust me. I don't care. Next, we're going to put 5 points into Wield the Storm for status effect damage and duration. We want the duration to be as long as possible. And unless, again, I'm absolutely blasted, this is the only passive that Amon has that gives us status effect duration. So we want that here. Then we're going to put 2 points into the best defense. This is one we're adding to this build. So we want to get overshield when we deal melee damage. This is going to be especially useful when we're mobbing as well, because we are going to be dealing a lot of melee damage when we're mobbing. You're just going to want to shoot, melee, shoot a few times maybe, melee. Anyways, that's going to give us a lot of OS. We also want to get OS from our shield, but we'll talk about that when we get there. We're going to take the augment force of nature, probably Amon's best augment for just raw damage, because the gun damage dealt to enemies will prime them. We're going to pair that with a spread launcher to get the most amount of damage possible to prime an enemy. And then we're going to throw our forge skill, and they're going to go bye-bye. We're going to put 5 points into catastrophe so we can get that crit chance. We're also going to get an additional 30% crit hit damage when we have max stacks, thanks to electrical fire, which we're also going to put 1 point there, obviously. So whenever we burn an enemy, we shock them, or whenever we shock them, we burn them. Then our final 5 points in the red tree are going to go into Dragon's Breath, an absolutely juiced skill for Amon. Anytime we activate our ordnance, our next gunshot is going to be converted to incendiary damage. So we're going to be throwing our ordnance to then activate Dragon's Breath when we deal our massive amount of damage with Force of Nature. And then, like I said, we're going to take Stormcutter for our capstone, sending ourselves a massive shockwave forward, which is not shock damage anymore. It's going to be instant damage thanks to our class mod, the Furnace. Move to the green tree. In the green tree, we're going to put 5 points in a cast iron for Forge skill cooldown rate. And we're going to put 5 points into Executioner for critical hit damage. If you can somehow get a melee off before throwing your Forge skill, that will increase our critical hit damage even more. But in most bossing attempts, it's just not feasible to do that. So it's still there, though, just to get that extra crit hit damage. And then we're going to put 5 points into Destruction Engine for Forge skill damage and detonation damage, both of which are going to help us a ton in dealing a ridiculous amount of damage with our Forge skill. And then finally, 5 points into Raging Inferno, one of my favorite passives for Amon, giving our action skill damage a chance to critically hit. And then from those critical hits, they will apply Burn. This burn damage will be 120% with 5 points and a 30% crit chance. We talked about this a little earlier, but our specializations, we're skipping the gear for now. We're going to go back to it. Don't worry. Specializations, 10 into Brute, 10 into Sharpshooter, so we can unlock Killer, where we're going to put a bunch of points into it because we want status effect damage and critical hit damage. But the main one we want is Contamination. And the reason we don't have a ton of points into there yet is because we also want to put 20 points. Well, actually, probably put 10 points. I don't know why I have 20 points. I do. I had Groundbreaker. I don't want Groundbreaker anymore. Well, you could put Groundbreaker if you want, but I actually have Bullet Train, so I can just keep sprinting around and shoot from my hip. But 10 points into Runner, 20 into Daredevil because we want to take Now with Caffeine to basically skip our action skill cooldown. And then we also want a Honed Mind to give ourselves that additional 5% crit hit chance for our action skill, and then an additional 50% critical hit damage for our action skill. So don't put 20 points into Runner unless you want Groundbreaker. Put 10 points into Runner, and then put the remaining points into Killer for crit hit damage and status effect damage. Okay, got it? Cool. Now let's take a look at our gear. So basically what I've been running is essentially all Jacob shotguns. However, I am also putting a plasma coil on for mobbing, especially. I actually tested this out, and I really like plasma coil with mobbing when you pair it with a Maliwan enhancement that has both synthesizer and transfuser. The main one I would say is probably transfuser. However, if you have, instead of synthesizer on a Maliwan enhancement, the one that basically guarantees your first bullet on a fresh reload applies a status effect, that one's also very good. So either one of those two for synthesizer or the one that applies a guaranteed dot, I would go with the guaranteed dot if you have it. Synthesizer also works, but transfuser is the one that you really want to spread status effects to nearby targets. If you don't have a Maliwan enhancement for some reason, you can just use a Jacobs one. Anyways, the rest of the weapons. Hellwalker is also quite good for mobbing, and it can be good for bosses with low HP pools because you can deal a ton of instant damage. Rainbow Vomit is also quite good for mobbing, especially if you have one with Corrosive, Shock, and Incendiary, which would work perfectly for Amon. If you have a Spread Launcher, that's just a bonus. The main bossing weapon, though, is just a pure Spread Launcher. One in the mag, max damage Spread Launcher. That is how you're going to hit nuclear numbers of damage with the action skills slash crit chance slash all of the things in combination to deal all the damage in this build to a boss. Now let's look at the rest of our gear here. We're going to go with a triple bypass with amp for bossing. You honestly don't need to use anything else. Just keep amp on for mobbing as well, but triple bypass because we want to just use that with Now with Caffeine to get rid of the action skill cooldown. That's like the main fallback of this build is action skill slash forge skill cooldown. I really wish Now with Caffeine worked with the forge skill. It doesn't. It sucks. The forge skill cooldown is the one thing that I dislike about this build. Everything else is fun and it's good. I want Now with Caffeine to work with forge skill. Please, Gearbox. Anyways, rant over. Amp triple bypass. For your ordnance, you want a shock ordnance because we want to apply shock, so we can also apply Incin or burn, and then we can get both the critical hit damage and critical hit chance increase from catastrophe. For the class mod, Raging Furnace with +5 into Raging Inferno and 2 into Dragon's Breath. If you can get like bonus elemental damage like what I have here, beautiful, absolutely beautiful. That's very good. Anything that can help increase the damage with this build as the secondary stat, because you're always going to get the 45% incendiary damage. For the shield, before I had Protein Cell. Protein Cell will definitely get you more damage and it buffs your dots. However, you become an absolute glass cannon because all damage goes through your shield. So essentially you don't have a shield. It's just there to buff your damage. And while your shield will never fully deplete because your action skill regenerates your shield faster than you lose it, you still essentially don't have a shield, and you take any kind of damage, you're gonna just fall flat on your face. So Watts for Dinner is gonna give us more survivability. And if you have one with Amp and Siphon, you are, first of all, you're absolutely blessed and have a ton of luck, I wish. But it's also going to be very good because we're going to get our Amp damage, and then we're going to get an Overshield from the Siphon. If you want to use only Amp, that's fine. If you want more survivability, go with just Siphon if you have the choice between the two. Or if you have the Amp/Siphon one, then screw you, I want it. And then, like I talked about earlier for the enhancement, Malawan or Jacobs will do nicely. For our firmware, I've chose to go 3 into Rubber Band Man to give us some more survivability from the damage reduction, life steal, and then double those bonuses. And then we're also going to put 2 points into Action Fist, which was buffed about a month or two ago. I don't know how long ago it was. But it went from 15% melee damage to now 25% melee damage. And I think it went from 25 to 30% action skill damage. So just take that because that's really nice buff to our raw damage output. All right, let me demonstrate this for you. So I'm not going to guarantee this is going to hit the first time because these dummies suck to test on, but I'm right here, so I'm just going to test it on the dummies. I will show some gameplay in the beginning and throughout the video as well, maybe. I don't know. Depends on how lazy I am. I'm just kidding. I'm going to show you gameplay. Don't worry. All right, so you're going to pop your action skill. Throw your ordnance. You probably should pop that before, and you probably should prepare your spread launcher before, but that's what you're going to do. And then you're going to just boom. I didn't even hit this perfectly. And I'm hitting like, I was hitting 6.1 million per tick. This one's 4.3 million. I mean, that ran out before, but you're going to hit some high numbers, and there's not a single boss in the game at this moment that has more than correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I think it's the big Encore boss, Origo, had the most amount of HP, and I want to say it was around 15 to 20 million HP. Again, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm going to guess Bloom Reaper is going to have upwards of 100 million HP, which this build can hit. Don't you worry. This build can hit that. I've hit 1 billion with this build. Actually, just before I went and hit record, I hit 1 billion with it. It's just, you want to hit 10 prime stacks with your spread launcher, and then you want your action skill or forge skill to hit. And if you get the crit, that's when you're going to hit the 1 billion damage. So it's inconsistent, yes, but you're still going to hit high damage numbers regardless because of just how much damage this build outputs. If you get lucky and hit the crits, though, then you're laughing. Anyways, that is the whole build. It is super fun. Definitely one of the highest damage, if not the highest damage Amon build in the game. Again, correct me if I'm wrong. Yell at me. Tell me I'm wrong in the comments. Please do. If you guys have any other builds that you want me to look at, or if you want to have me try some out, put some in a video, I don't know. Let me know down in the comments. If you guys like it too, just let me know down in the comments. Tell me anything. Tell me how your day's going. Appreciate you guys making it to the end of the video. If you guys want to come hang out while we test these builds, we stream on Twitch Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. Central. Hope to see you guys in chat one day. If you guys do come to chat, tell me what your favorite flavor ice cream is. Mine is mint chocolate chip. Thank you guys for making today a video. Follow on all the other socials, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook too, and TikTok and Twitch, and subscribe here on YouTube. All right, thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.